Well, folks, this is the Super Morning Show on Joy 99.7 FM. Let's continue, and convener for the Individual Bondholders Forum, Senyo Hosi, says they're still hoping to meet the finance minister on their demands and the way forward as the deadline for the domestic debt exchange approaches. Now, he says the technical report and agreement reached with the bondholders is inconsequential and urges affected persons not to subscribe to the domestic debt exchange despite the conditions from government. Let's listen to Senyo Hosi.
We are hopeful that we'll be meeting the finance minister who would have by then would have reviewed this report and also share a perspective on the way forward. We practically have a few days more to go to that deadline. And for us, it's inconsequential. The position is clear. Individuals and collective investment schemes must be exempted from this entire program. The consequences to the economy are far-reaching when you include them than when you don't. So I think we should just keep it right, do what is right, and then really get moving together as a country. Look at the proposal. Which part of it is not that practical? What is it that government can do? But it's a hard job government must do, and that's what we vote governments in office. We need to turn around our economy, give it a breather, get a private sector to start driving things in our country. We have a government that's always crowding out the private sector, crowding out the ability to access capital, to invest in businesses. Look at our interest rates and the challenges in there. We are fixing interest rates at high levels that make it unsustainable for us to revive our economy. Why? Because government is borrowing at 36%. If government is borrowing at 36%, how much will I as a businessman borrow? And if you are doing this at 36% for treasury bills today, how do you go around start giving somebody 0% and 5%? I don't think there's anything uncertain here. What is certain is that when you actually take the DDE program, you are impoverished by 77% to 88% of your wealth. It means your 1 million cities will become 120,000. Your 10,000 will become 1,200. So you have to decide how you want to die. I don't think that's what people want. People want to have. But if you maintain your current deal and you reject the DDE, you are going to be sitting pretty. Your wealth will be retained, will be restored. So nobody is going to breach. Government will not breach on its obligations under your current bond. Government is looking for a better deal that suits it. We have shown government how to really get money to sustain itself and all of us together without necessarily taking your money. So say no to the DDE. Don't sign the DDE. And if you have signed the DDE, we have published wording you should send to your bank and ask them to withdraw your offer on the DDE.
Super Morning Show.
Great. So there you have it. That's Senyo Hosi there. And Raymond, you've been studying their proposals. Let's get into the proposals being made by the Individual Bondholders Forum.
Yeah. So, Winston, there are several ones. And if you list them alphabetically, it's from A to R. So it's very long and extensive. Let me bring it because some of them are very huge. For example, they are asking for, when it comes to revenue, enforce the filing of interest coupon income on corporate instruments, ESLA, Dachi, Cocoa bills as part of personal income tax and effect the 25% tax related to the income. Alternatively, you should revise the 1% withholding of the related securities to 20% and make it final and deductible at the source. This creates an additional revenue of somewhere around 104 million for the current fiscal year. Oil production has dropped from over 200, to below. So what you need to do, the government should, as a matter of urgency, review the regulatory and fiscal environment to encourage existing producers to ramp up production and develop new fields. This should get us some 3.6 billion. There's one on government exercising its right under the Accra Petroleum Agreement, Deepwater Tunnel, to repossess the block or compel the immediate commencement of development by the contractor. The field has the potential of delivering up to 100 kbpd, yielding over 5.6 billion cedis per year to the government, and this is tagged with 5.6 billion cedis. Now, it says these are the revenue measures that are supposed to be going anyway. The fourth one is that it should expedite reforms to enforce property taxes with landed properties of around 2.2 million in Ghana. We anticipate that achieving an average annual rate of 1,000 per property at a collection efficiency of 50%, it will yield 1.1 billion. Right? Okay, so so it wants government to rise above politics and fully enforce the VAT invigilation. That saw the rise of VAT revenue by 1,000 in some cases. This assumes a 15% over the 2023 estimated VAT collection, which will then give us some 3.5 billion. And more than that, a collection of 23 billion. So we will get 3.5 billion from it. Pursue the recovery of funds lost through financial irregularities of MDAs in the Auditor General's reports from 2015 to 2022, 7 years, and Fiscal Recklessness Index report, which is 2020. 13.9 billion can be recovered from there. That's what they're suggesting. Pursue the recovery of the over 5 billion tax evasion in the petroleum downstream sector. This happened between 2016 and 2021. The Seaboard Petroleum Industry Report has this, and that's on 5 billion if we're able to pursue the recovery of that amount of money. Divest loss-making, defunct and troubled 17 state-owned enterprises as identified and announced by the Ministry for Public Enterprises. That's supposed to get us some 1 billion cedis. Privatize selected SOEs to Tier 2 pension funds to provide efficiency and productivity. Government will realize funds from their divestiture with ownership still being retained by the workers of Ghana. These SOEs may include the Electricity Company of Ghana and the Ghana RA. This is supposed to get government of the Republic of Ghana some 20 billion. Now, one more thing we should note here is that review and rationalize the budget of the state-owned enterprise and increasing the capping of high revenue generating SOEs to show up central government revenue and reduce waste in those state-owned enterprises. This is supposed to rake in some 1 billion cedis. The bus margin should be converted into a levy and channeled into government revenue. BOST, that's the bulk oil storage, is a fully commercial entity. It is untenable to continue to tax the public to fund its activities, almost like a private institution, right? While it charges commercial rates for its services. So if we do that, we are getting some 300 million from that. Now, what is not estimated is revising the royalties for new and yet to be renegotiated mining leases from what is the standard 5 to 15 years. And that's what they are proposing. Well, that they didn't do the estimation.
Yeah.
Then they came specifically to expenditure.
Yeah.
Would you want to take them?
Yes. So on expenditure, the budget provision for the energy sector shortfall of 23 billion Ghana cedis should be revised downwards by 3 billion cedis through the reduction of transmission losses, technical losses, and administrative inefficiencies. Effectively implements the energy sector recovery recommendations, and they are projecting that we'll be saving some 3 billion cedis if we did this. Also cap the subsidies on the premix petroleum at 200 million cedis, thereby reducing the budget by 150 million cedis. Owing to the wanton abuse of this subsidy, provide discount coupons to registered fisherfolk for the purchase of premix. And if we carry this through, the Individual Bondholders Forum is proposing that we'll be saving 150 million. Also maintain the 2022 capital expenditure level by reducing the non-ABFA, MDA and foreign finance capex provisions by 50%. And they're estimating will make some savings. This is 10.7 billion cedis. The next one is to reduce transfers to statutory funds, except for DACF, NHF, and GET Fund. The transfers to all other statutory funds should be reduced significantly from 15% of tax revenue approved in the 2023 budget to 10%. And then special focus may be placed on GMPC, Ghana Exim Bank, and MIIF. And we'll be saving 7 billion cedis if we did this. Review the right size MDAs and SOEs to maintain compensation expenses equivalent to 2022. This should include drastically reducing the number of MDAs, ministers, and staff at the Office of Government Machinery, example, presidential staffers, and this will save us some 6.5 billion cedis. And then this is a huge one. Review the free senior high school program to make it more efficient through effective targeting and allowing parents who can pay to do so. Beneficiaries should be students that patronize senior high school in their communities, whilst other students should pay for boarding. However, the government can pay for students who do not have senior secondary schools in their communities. And if governments agreed to do this, it will be saving 1 billion cedis, according to the Individual Bondholders Forum. But they also say that the measures proposed, per the estimation of the IBF, that's the Individual Bond Holders Forum, yield net savings of 83.5 billion Ghana cedis. The IBF holds the position that the above recommendations are competent enough to urgently address the fiscal challenges and enable us to reach the desired 55% debt to GDP target proposed to the IMF. The big questions, guys, I get at this point is whether or not these recommendations will be adopted, especially when they also say that they want to be involved. So this is not just a recommendation that they are making, but they want it to be a continuous discussion that they want to have with governments, and they want to be involved in the implementation process as well.
The answer to that question, which is really in the observation, which perhaps it is me who is reading other meanings into it, it says here the government team, whilst amenable to some of the proposals and recommendations from the individual bondholders, stressed the complexities with implementation. Given that some revenue and expenditure measures are of a medium-term nature and being considered by the government as part of its structural reform agenda and medium-term domestic revenue mobilization strategy. However, any proposal that can be implemented immediately should be considered towards a speedy resolution of the current economic crisis.
The challenge with all of this is that you can see in there the technical team or technical committee, the Ministry of Finance team did not say anything about we accept or disagree.
Yeah.
They tell you, oh, these are the challenges that could happen if we do this.
Yeah.
And they are now going to give it to the minister. What I see in here is this is far from over.
That's true.
Because once the minister is now going to have this, when did they send it to the minister? And what decision will the minister take? But this is it.
Is that the impression I got? In fact, forgive me. When I spoke to Martin Pebu the night this decision was made to form this committee, the direct impression I got from this was that, listen, the powers have now been given to this committee to now look at where we should be removing what, so that we can implement that immediately, so that we can remove the individual bondholders. It appears that this committee is, in and of itself, merely recommending what should be done, so that some other authority would now come and make a determination whether or not those are things we want to do, whether they can be done anytime soon, or should be deferred, or should be thrown out completely.
I mean, just read the concluding part of everything. Because after everything, you see some other recommendations. Do you see at any point in time the committee itself making recommendations to the finance minister?
Not at all.
So that's where my first point is.
It's a bit confusing, right?
Yes.
But is it significant that it's jointly signed by a representative of the ministry?
Well, it is. It is to the extent that this representative is saying, we have sat down, they've made these proposals, and I'm forwarding it to you.
Brilliant. It doesn't say that we sat down and agreed on these proposals,
Right.
and this is collectively our decision. It's almost like we are listening to you what the people are
What they
proposing.
say. And so for me, that's the most important thing. So that's the first thing I flag and I say,
Yeah.
is this an agreement between two parties, or these are proposals? If we take it as proposals, then it means we are far from reaching an agreement. We could reach an agreement today, with the finance minister, and they say they want to meet the finance minister. What I like about this, in fact, I will even want to add something.
You see, sometimes we should be fair to ourselves. The people met the finance minister with other people in the same room. When they were going to that meeting, they had these proposals.
Yeah.
People knew they had these proposals. In fact, they are discussing about them in the media. To only put up a committee for a week, for them to list their proposals, and you tell us what everybody in this republic knows. If you want to deal with property tax, it will take a long time to implement it. That's what you're basically telling us today. So we may not get the money immediately, but that's for the future, right? If you want to get people to start their oil exploration, it may also take some time. Those ones we know. But there were other immediate ones. So if you just put in a line that we should be able to implement some of these ones, exactly why did we need a committee to go and list what had already been listed?
You needed a committee to buy time. But let me move on.
Maybe that's so.
Of course, you need a committee to buy time. You need to buy time. Now, as it goes on like that, the conversation on the domestic debt exchange reduces a little bit.
That's true.
And so today they've reached agreements with the Ghana Association of Banks and the Ghana Insurance Association. But my point is that, look, I can understand where they're coming from. If we reduce, for instance, I mean, the 2022 capital expenditure was 16 billion. If you're reducing it, the 16.3 billion or something, if you're subtracting that from the current, you're getting about 10 billion. And that's actually enough, okay, to take care of the individual bondholders, the monies that are in there. So even that particular item, the Individual Bondholders Forum has a valid point, and they say, do not touch it. Now, I have been calling on people. I just want to make a point. I'm going to use, somebody's, analogy to make a point, because I have been calling on persons who want to be president in this country, to share their plans on how to deal with it. The likes of John Dramani Mahama, Alan Kwejo Tremantin, who has spoken on it. Dr. Kwabena Dufour, who has spoken on it. Kojo Bonsu, I've seen his billboards. He should be telling us how he would deal with this. Kene Japan, come. Don't just say you will not take salary. No, that's not what we're discussing today. We are faced with a debt crisis. How are you going to get out of the debt crisis? How are you going to deal with the domestic debt exchange
But
program?
those who have said something about it, have they stated what they would do?
They have. And I'm going to use that to
Actually, all of them.
I'm going to use that to make analysis right now. But before I do the analysis with what they have said, I am still calling on the others who have not spoken to come and speak. Jogati, come and tell all of
We
us.
don't want to be surprised.
No.
Because in this republic, a lot of things go under the radar. If we don't
Exactly.
take care and we don't get commitment from people from the beginning, they end up telling us that I didn't make any commitments to this. So they do whatever they want. It's our collective responsibility. In fact, if the theory that a social contract is what you devise with the people when you want to come into government, so this social contract includes what I want to do, then we buy into it, then the contract is sealed.
Yeah.
So that you do not deviate from it and someone do anything that you like in your own name and for your friends.
So having said that, you also would love to hear from Dr. Usufri Yakoto.
Water.
God has already named Akoto, Ghana. He should come and tell us what he is going to do. And all those who want to be president, they should tell us. Even political parties should be stating their positions today. Let us analyze them. But having said that, Alan Tremantin, for instance, has made a point. He says, under no circumstance should individual bondholders be part of this. He says we don't even have to be having this conversation. And that's the position I think resonates with majority of Ghanaians.
No, so sorry. If he came as president, he would exempt the individual bondholders. But what would he do?
And I'm very convinced if you were to be finance minister today, I'm sure that would have exempted the individual
He would have.
bondholders.
Yeah, but I think it's the alternative.
Yes,
that
so the
we want to
alternative is
hear.
that don't add them. What you actually should do is to get the institutional bondholders on, and even with the institutional bondholders, do not pay them 5% this year like you're proposing. Give them 10%. And give them 10% over a 10-year period. And after that 10% over a 10-year period, once you get the IMF deal, reduce corporate income tax to also cushion them. So that the little profit they make, they don't have to come and pay 25% to you as corporate income tax.
Because the point that has been made, I think the striking part is listen, there are some people who were compelled to accept bonds under the amalgamated fund.
Yes,
They did not wake up one day to be
Yes.
interested in amalgamated funds.
exactly.
That group, they were paid first one, and I think a second also. They were not paid again.
Some are not even paid.
Some are not even paid. So if you refuse to pay me and my money is still within the amalgamated fund, which we said we are devoted some 10 billion. 10 billion, let's say it's part of the 25 billion we've been dealing with. That 10 billion, now you are going to add the amalgamated fund to a debt restructuring program, which means that the money you're supposed to pay me, you didn't pay. No, I didn't take interest on it even in the first place, just a raw money. You didn't pay, but you're going to put it in a different restructuring program. What is the guarantee that if you renege, and that's the question that Les Mood was asking yesterday, if you could not pay under the 10 billion that you said for 5 years you're going to pay me, you'll be able to pay under this debt restructuring program that you're talking about. So the 5 years, you start the 5 years, you don't even deliver, you default in the process. Then you put the money into a different arrangement without consulting me. Today, none of them knows the terms of this new arrangement that they want to take it into. So you think that guy who believed in your finance system, or still, if given any opportunity, believe that you, the old one, you couldn't do it, but the next one you can do it. And that's following from your banking sector reform. Oh. The reform you claim you have spent 25 billion on, that we have as a state been saying this is one of the biggest headaches we have in this country. And yet, the people you're supposed to give the money to, you're not giving the money to them.
You see,
So who got the 25 billion?
Our people have a very nice saying.
Yeah.
They say the one that you know during the day,
Yeah.
at night, you don't need light to see his face. If you couldn't pay me in the past,
Yeah.
how sure am I that you will pay me tomorrow? I am saying I don't want any problem. You give me my money back. And so it's important we exempt the individual bondholders. And it makes sense for even government that you don't have access to the international capital market. So why do you want to make life unbearable for yourself?
Winston, you're talking about what Alan has said he would do. How about Kwabena Dufo?
So Kwabena Dufo has talked about the fact that they should extend the maturity period.
Yeah.
So what you're going to have is that, okay, pay the people. You'll be paying the interest,
The coupon.
the coupon rate. I don't know you call the interest, the coupon rate. Pay the coupon rate, and defer the payment of the maturity. So, for instance, some bonds are going to. There are some bonds that would mature this year. Some will even mature in February, in March, and all of that. Don't pay the principal. Extend it, and pay the coupon rates. So the person gets the coupon rate of say 20% or say
Something to
19%
survive on,
or
yeah.
23%. So, for instance, if you have 100,000 Ghana cedis, biannually, twice in a year, you're giving 10,000, 10,000, 20,000 for a 20% coupon rate. So, your bonds were supposed to have matured, let's say, next year. We are deferring it because we don't have
The money to
to
give you.
pay you next year. But in the
will still
absence
pay
of
you
that, we will pay you
The interest.
The interest. So it means that while we are deferring the payment of your principal, we
will
are cushioning
continue the
you.
arrangement.
And if I look at it from that point of view, it's a lot of money. If I were to carry my pen and do the math here,
Yeah.
you see that you wouldn't be worse off.
Yeah.
You wouldn't be worse off because we're keeping your money, we are extending the maturity period. By the time we even get to the payment, the time I will be paying you, if inflation had come down and everything, you'll be better
You'll
off. If
be
you
better off.
consider the coupon rates that you may have received,
Yeah.
you're better off. And I think it makes sense.
So why is it that all these groupings, these individuals, and the Individual Bondholders Forum, they are making all these suggestions and recommendations? It sounds to me like there isn't just one way out of this. There are many other ways. Why is government fixated on just this one way?
It's an important point. That's why I've been asking for that report. One, we said we did a stress test. We did a financial stability review. Those ones may indicate to us, see, first is what are your objectives for doing a debt restructuring? How much are you seeking to restructure? What impact is the amount going to make in the final analysis? How much have you agreed with your good friends on the Bretton Woods side that you are going to restructure? Did you get my point?
Right.
It is those ones that feed into your plan of restructuring. Except that right from the beginning, we've been told about 137 billion. As to whether that's the amount of money that ought to be genuinely restructured, and the reasons and the alternatives on the table, we've not been told. But government consistently creates the impression that when we did our review, this is what we came to. What they've not told us is that there are other options that are equally feasible to achieve the same end. So it's the same destination we are going to. You can use alternative places to the same destination. Why government is insistent on this one is what they're not saying. It's also because maybe they are telling a select or special group of people. Most of us in the Republic of Ghana, unless you come up with protests like the trade unions, unless you come up with protests like the individual bondholders, there was scanty, very little information right from the beginning on even our debt sustainability analysis. It is in this report that I'm reading that government agrees that our debt to GDP ratio may have even reached or surpassed 100%.
It's gone past 100%.
Did you get the point? But all this while, our republic was not sharing their debt sustainability analysis with us.
But don't you
But
know?
we are the people
No, but
you are representing.
Raymond.
Stakeholders. We don't have the report. But yet you are making decisions
Why do you
consistently.
think? Why do you think the Republic consistently makes reference to the September debt to GDP ratio and not extend it to December. Why is it so difficult for the Republic to use the external debt multiplied by the prevailing rates, exchange rate, and tell you how much we owe?
That's extremely high.
Over 500 billion.
Yeah.
So it's very simple. If we do everything, if we add our ESLA, if we add if we add the SOEs, the debts that they owe, it turns out they had borrowed on the back of their books, it's over 100%. But I am saying something, and I want to make a certain call today. This is very controversial, but I'm going to say it. The economic management team and its chairman should be speaking to the nation. At this point in time, it is very, very important, because I do not believe that this is the government position.
Oh,
So if you go to my Joe online, Bright Simmons of Imani is making some
Yes.
interesting commentary there. He's alleging that the economic management team that you just mentioned and the presidency are against the inclusion of individual bondholders.
Now, the Dr. Baumia that we knew, at the point in time said, it doesn't make economic sense to tax Momo transfers.
yet you brought in e-levy.
We taxed it. There were many people who said he was not in support of it. He didn't speak.
Never.
In fact, when he addressed the nation on the 7th of April in Kaswa, he just a lot of revenue measures like the e-levy, just one line. But Dr. Baumia, at this point in time, we cannot sweep everything under the carpet, because we need to know what your position is. The economic management team must tell us. It doesn't hurt if they share their advice. Then at least we know that there are people in this country who are thinking about the ordinary people. Because if I cannot sleep, I presume you are also not sleeping. But the evidence out there is that these people who are tasked to be advising are probably not advising right and not taking the right decisions. The time is now. The town hall meetings must not only be in an election year.
Or for e-levy.
Or for e-levy. Let us have an economic management team town hall meeting like we had in 2019 and 2020. 2019 at the College of Physicians and Surgeons Hall. And we had one in Kumasi. I want you to speak. Tell us today what your position is. I want to hear from the economic management team. And I say this, anybody who's not being listened to when he advises has no business complaining. He has every business making it known that I will not be part of a system that does not listen when it is obvious that what we are going to do will hurt the masses. We cannot continue like this. So that's the challenge. Let's hear from the economic management team and its chairman. In a town hall meeting, all of us will be there
But
to debate it.
Okay, so no, of course, there are caretaker ministers also replacing other ones. I was coming to say that it's been decimated recently by resignations. The economic man- But still, it's a solid team. So
But one has spoken.
one or two.
The
cannot
one who
make-
left has gone
Yeah.
to speak. The others,
one or two cannot destroy the entire
Exactly,
team
they
anyway.
should come and
But
speak.
they'll be replaced by caretaker ministers.
they
So
should come and speak.
yes.
In the meantime, all these people who are giving us these alternatives, these recommendations, we're not paying them for what they're doing. We actually
Some of
have
them were
people
not
that
even
we are
consulted.
paying to work for
I
us.
remember when I was talking
and they're
to
not doing that
Dr.
work.
Kwabena before, he says, me, I'm a shareholder in a bank, in a financial institution. It makes sense that you are speaking to my officers, but you should speak to me too. The same way you are speaking to other shareholders, like bondholders and all of that. It makes sense that you speak to those of us who can make the decision that let's go ahead. Or because my bank officers will come to me, or my financial institution officers will come to me. They'll come and ask me whether I agree. Is it not sensible that you engage me rather? So that we're on the same table, you take my options and the possibilities, not even as former finance minister or former governor of the Bank of Ghana, but as somebody who has interest in the financial sector. But he says, no engagement at all.